women have been divorced from their meaning and purpose as wives and mothers.
Giving women choices does not remove meaning from their lives. It gives women who don't want to live exclusively in those narrow confines the opportunity to find meaning elsewhere. Shut the fuck up, Abby. Go back to talking about your hair.
Don't have.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. That was a little bit too much. Hello, lovely people. My name is Emma. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new. Today we are looking at the first episode of Classically Abby's brand new podcast. Why? At some point, I think it was when I was doing a video, I think I might have signed up actually on camera, I can't quite remember. We're back and hopefully a bit less yellow. Perfect. I'm super with it today. Yeah, I think I actually did this on camera. I signed up for Classically Abby's email notifications. I think there was like, you signed up and you got like a download or some secret thing. I can't remember, but I did it for a reason. So now I get emails from Classically Abby. So I got one a couple of days ago that was like, new podcast is launching, and the first episode title really made me laugh. Episode 1 of the brand new podcast is called I'm Not Judgy, I'm Looking Out For You. It's been retitled now. It's I'm Looking Out For You in capital letters. She loves to shout. I poked fun at this and I kind of shared it and said, this sounds like something a judgy person would say. I kind of hoped that it was almost meant to be in quotation marks. The capitalization in the title now makes me think that it wasn't. I kind of thought maybe it was meant to be like poking fun at people who say that, and like maybe it's a discussion on being non-judgmental, but it seems like no, it's not. It is actually a defense of being a judgmental person. But I thought it'd be interesting to see what kind of stuff she's going to talk about. I thought it'd be interesting to see what this is going to be like based on the title, because it sounds like it's going to be judgmental, and I'm interested in how that's going to sound. So I thought we'd just take a look. I thought it'd be interesting, and I thought there's probably like one other person out there other than me who is intrigued by what this is going to be like. So let's do it. The Classically Abby podcast, episode 1. I'm Not Judgy. I'm Looking Out For You.
Hello, Classic crew, and welcome to the first episode of the Classically Abby podcast. I'm so excited to be recording here and doing it for the first time completely unedited.
So she does this intro to the new podcast. It's a brand new thing. Oh my gosh, Abby, I'm really very sorry about the freeze frame that I've paused you on. She's talking about how it's different talking unedited in a podcast format versus a recording for YouTube where you can just kind of keep talking and then cut it out later, which is, yeah, it's different and interesting. It's not super relevant to my interests, so I'm going to skip past it.
And I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about what this podcast is going to be. So this podcast centers on classic living and traditional values, navigating the modern era as a traditional woman, as well as conversations with other people in this space.
So her usual repertoire. Classic living. I wish I had a way of describing to you if you've not seen much from Classically Abby before. Yes, this is Ben Shapiro's sister. I know the comments will be flooded from, isn't she? She's Ben Yes, she is. For some reason, I don't know why this irritates me. It's just, I don't like when people get other people's names wrong, especially when it's like, you can very easily find out. Her name's Abigail Roth. She's married. Her name is Roth. For some reason, whenever I talk about Classically Abby, people always call her Abby Shapiro, which was her maiden name before she got married. Her name's Abigail Roth. I wish I had a way of succinctly, like, explaining what she means by traditional values and classic living, but I don't, because it's not a consistent ideology. I need a video from Abby where she says, these are the exact traditions that I'm following. This is what I mean by classical. Because it seems like a mix of the kind of like American 50s housewife propaganda mixed with like, she's a religious Jew, so the Hebrew Bible, which is obviously 2,000 years ago classic living, but she's obviously not living completely like that. She's got, you know, she's doing a podcast on a laptop right now, so how classic is classic? How traditional is traditional? Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no, and I say this every time we ever come across a traditional values person. They never have, oh, I mean traditional to this era. Because they're usually in like, you know, this one particular part of history. And it's like, they're very angry about things like women wearing trousers or, you know, men dressing in feminine ways is like disgusting and terrible and not traditional. And then it's like, but if you look at earlier traditions, they kind of like, you know, there is a period of classical history where men traditionally dressed what we would now consider in a more feminine way. It just doesn't work as an ideology. It doesn't make sense. They would have to... I would love for somebody like Abby to say, oh, I mean these traditions, this period of history, and this is why I think that living in that specific period of history is best. Because, of course, she primarily, or at least she sort of purports to primarily base this on religion and faith, but that's not very, again, 2,000 years out of date. That's not really how she lives her life. So I can't explain to you exactly what she means by classic, just that she uses it in the way that a lot of these, anti-modern women, they don't like cleavage, they don't like women having high-powered jobs instead of being stay-at-home mums. That's basically what it kind of revolves around. This kind of post-war, early anti-feminism kind of, the fighting the early onset of feminism kind of vibe, which is interesting for me because that obviously centers around rights for women and fighting against them, which I find very bizarre. But maybe if Abby ever explained it, she would explain it in a different way. I would love to actually hear that and hear her justify her all over the place views. Let's carry on.
This podcast gives strength to the women who reject the modern narrative of womanhood and instead embrace real femininity.
The modern narrative of womanhood, like running your own business by having a YouTube channel and being a singer and running a podcast. It just seems like, and again, every anti-feminist woman on YouTube has the same vibe. If the world that you kind of purport to support, where only traditional femininity is supported, where you reject modern womanhood, whatever the fuck that means, because obviously being a woman means whatever the fuck you want it to mean. It doesn't. If it wasn't for women's rights activism, you wouldn't have this. If you lived in the world that you think is best, you wouldn't be running your own channel. You wouldn't. Maybe, I don't know, maybe her husband runs all the business and she's just the face of it. Maybe she is actually more closely tied to those values than, it seems. But and she's going to talk about faith in this as well. And traditionally, per the Hebrew Bible, that's not really a role for women. She shouldn't be out here preaching. She shouldn't be making videos. She shouldn't be presenting. She shouldn't be doing any... She shouldn't. Obviously, I think she should and is clearly perfectly capable of doing that and doing well. But by her own standards, her vague standards, it seems like she shouldn't have any of this. One rule for me and another for them.
So that's the concept of the podcast. I'm really glad you're here. And before we get further into today's episode, then we're going to move on to our faith talk. So I haven't done quite a lot of this on my channel, and I miss doing it. I've done it before, but not as much as I would like to. And now we're going to bring that back into focus. So I am a religious Jew, in case you didn't know that. And I really like talking about faith and our journeys and our relationship to God. This week, at least, and we'll see how it goes moving forward, we're going to go off of the Torah portion, or the Parsha.
Ooh, I'm excited. Oh, Abby might do a section of her podcast that I'm interested in listening to. Oh, no.
And then lastly, we'll finish off with subscriber questions. And it's a little bit different for me. First thing I want to talk about is what the main topic of today is going to be, which is why I encourage women to be classic. So I talk about being classic all the time. And what I mean when I talk about being classic, I want to kind of explain that a little bit.
Oh my God, everything she's talking about is everything I want to hear. Do I have magic powers? I'm really excited now.
But why do I encourage it? Why is it so important? So many people get offended when you kind of tell them that there's a better way to live, and they think that it's coming from a place of judgment. And I'm here to explain why it isn't. If you're new here, I'm married with a 9-month-old baby. I will be married for 5 years in May, which is crazy. I can't believe time has flown by that quickly. And my son is the cutest. We call him Mr. Baby over here. What will we call him when he gets older? I don't
Mr. Toddler? Mr. Baby is actually really funny.
Actually, no. Mr. Boy? Perhaps. Especially as we have more children. if you didn't know, I also keep the identity of my baby under wraps. I mean, I don't show his face on social media, and I don't use his name because he didn't consent to it. And also, the internet is a terrible place. And
10 out of 10 props for Abby. Please, may other parents who are on the internet take this into account. I do think you can show your children in some ways, and there are some channels that do it very well, where their children aren't a focus, they're not really a part of it, just sometimes they will join in with things. My favourite example is Eddie Boley on Tom Scar and Friends. Whenever they do a challenge, sometimes his son Rick will be just involved in helping him, and the only time you see his son is them like playing together, you know, to do something silly. And because their channels don't touch anything like controversial or anything, it's a lot safer. There's a right way to do it, but especially if you're like Abby and you touch something like controversial, I just think safest thing is just not feature your children at all, because people are going to be horrible. And also sometimes parents put stuff online that is really embarrassing, and I think about like, what's that kid going to say when they're older? That's just going to be really awkward.
People hate me a lot, so they don't need to hate my son. So I decided not to share that information. So that's why I call him Mr. Baby. I used to be a professional opera singer. If you didn't know that, that's partly why I chose the name Classically Abby, because I was a classically trained opera singer. And I moved away from that partly due to COVID. But even before COVID, it wasn't going to be my full-time career because I wanted to be able to devote my time to my family. And being an opera singer is really not conducive to that. I ended up doing content creation, talking about the stuff that I'm really passionate about. I feel that this is my mission, to talk about classic living and traditional values and modern femininity, and helping women find their place in this world that's telling them all of the things that they should be doing that will only lead them down a path of unhappiness.
That is judgmental though, isn't it? There's this real assumption that everything that she doesn't personally like, because this is the thing I have with Classically Abby. She could be perfectly lovely, and a lot of the time she comes across very nice. Like, within her community of like-minded people, the content she makes is largely great. I think she does the less great stuff on purpose because that generates more views and clicks. Honestly, I think that's why she throws out some judgmental shade. And she could just, it's this bizarre anti-feminist lie where, oh, feminists are making everyone fat workaholics who hate men, or, you know, whatever, because that drives more views. And I think that's so sad, because if she just ignored that bit and said, for women who want to embrace this kind of classical living and more sort of modest femininity, I thought I'd share stuff about how I do that and how I live my life. Perfectly lovely. You know, advice for women who want to work from home and not spend too much time apart from their family. Advice for women who want to live their life in a faithful way. Just, you could do all of that in such a nice way, but she has to frame it as, and the other people are wrong. Because here's the thing, Abby, as much as you pretend this is not true, and I know because I've seen her talk about feminists before, what feminism is equality of choice for everyone. What I want is equality of choice for all people, including all women. That means that my worldview says that Abby can choose to stay at home, to make her videos as well, to do the things that she loves, to be with her family. Wonderful. Abby's view is that my way of living my life, my choices, are wrong and are going to lead me to unhappiness. That fucking sucks. And hooray for Abby that makes her money. You're inches away from a really fucking nice thing that you poison by pitting women against each other. I hate that. It should be freedom for all women supporting women, and Abby is just not there, and it makes me so sad, and it makes me sad that she kind of complains that people hate on her and don't like what she does when she is so close to being completely non-controversial, a really lovely channel. But she dedicates half her time, and she knows she dedicates half her time to doing this because it's calculated, right, to drive views. She spends half her time critiquing other women for their choices and calling them wrong and terrible and ruining society.
Content creator for about 3 years now. And that's kind of my background. So one of the things I want to mention today, if you're watching, is my hair. So I used hot rollers today.
I might skip ahead a bit because I don't know why we're talking about her hair. Maybe I'm just jealous because her hair looks fantastic and mine looks kind of garbage today. I'm going to skip ahead because I don't really care about her hair.
That's where my hair is at. I film facing my pool. So that's reminding me that we just got our pool fence installed. And that was a great...
Oh, I'm skipping ahead again because I'm jealous. I don't know if I'd even want a pool because the maintenance seems like a nightmare. I don't know. I have this, and this is probably a flaw with me rather than anything else, but I have this, like, working class upbringing in the back of my head where I kind of resent wealth. And when I hear, I see Abby in front of her, I'm in my kitchen, my beautiful fucking big, gorgeous, perfectly clean kitchen. I'm looking out over my pool. We just had our pool fence installed. I feel like, fuck off. Like, realistically, I should be happy for her. I'm sure her and her husband worked very hard for what they have, and they deserve to have things that they enjoy in their lives. I just, something about sitting and listening to people. And I don't think she's even bragging. I think she's just talking. But it almost comes off... And again, I think this is a problem with me. It almost comes off like bragging. I just can't do it. I can't deal with it. I just want to, I just don't want to listen to Abby talking about having a pool, okay? I'm skipping ahead. I don't care. I don't care about her pool. I don't care about her hair.
As I mentioned earlier, people think when I'm talking about being classic...
Here we go.
...that I'm coming from a place of judgment. That I judge people who aren't classic. That I sit over here and go like, you're dumb for not doing what I'm doing. That's wrong. The truth is, when I'm talking about being classic, it comes from a place of wanting people to be happy. I know that that's almost hard to picture, but really...
It's hard. It's not hard to picture. It's hard to understand. I can see why somebody would come from that perspective. It's hard to accept that from Abby, because she won't accept that some people want to do things that aren't classic. I don't want the same classic life as Abby. That won't make me happy. The reason it comes across as judgmental, Abby, is because you tell people that you know better than they do what will make them happy. That's judgmental and kind of crazy? I don't know, conspiratorial? It's weird to assume you know better than somebody else what will make them happy. And she does this... She doesn't get it, even though she does this in reverse with her fake idea of what feminism is. Feminists don't want you to have kids or be a housewife. She doesn't like that because it's people, basically, it's an imaginary fictional enemy, which people do this all the time. It frustrates me greatly. It's very easy to argue against a fucking scapegoat that you've made up yourself, right? So she makes up this scapegoat of feminism. Feminists say you're not allowed to... Feminists don't want you to be a stay-at-home wife. Why doesn't Abby like that? Because being a stay-at-home wife makes her happy. So that person would be really judgmental and incorrect to say that they're trying to do... Do you see what I'm getting at here? Like, it's the exact same thing in reverse.
When I'm talking about being classic, it's because I know that being classic and maintaining traditional values leads people to live happier lives and have more meaning, have more purpose.
How do you know that? How do you purport to know that? First of all, you've got to define exactly what you mean by classic and traditional, which she said she was gonna, so I'm waiting for it. And then you have to prove to me that you know that other people, all other women, will be happier if they live basically your life. I wonder if there's anything classical or traditional that she does in her life that she doesn't really enjoy, but does anyway because she believes it will lead to a better world, a happier, that she'll be happier in the future. Is there anything she does that she really doesn't like doing, but she thinks is better? Because that's what she's trying to impart onto other people. Or is it that she's very happy with living this particular life and assumes that everyone else will be happy doing the exact same thing? Frustrates me.
The truth is that women have gotten more anxious and more depressed since they have lost their meaning and purpose.
Nobody's lost... What do you mean lost meaning and purpose? You mean since that meaning and purpose has expanded beyond just being a baby-making machine? Oh, she's getting frustrating. I mean, I should have known. She was going to explain what she means by, like, traditional living. Like, of course it was going to be frustrating, but God.
I feel really passionately about this. I read this article and I know what I'm going to do oh gosh, I forgot to mention my hard drive with all of my work on it has been broken by Mr. Baby pulling it down. On that hard drive is an article that I am really passionate about because it's written by a colonel. It was written in like the 50s or 60s. And I think it was written in the 60s because it was post.
No.
Sort of like it was the beginning of feminist ideology starting to pervade women's ideology.
Surely not a propaganda piece from the beginning of women fighting for their rights. It's not like there was a whole campaign of propaganda of women speaking against that, of women saying, particularly in the USA, of women saying, women's rights leads to fornication and adultery and unhappiness and big hairy feet or whatever. I'll try and find some of the propaganda posters because, like, to not identify that as propaganda is fucking hilarious. Childish? What's the word I'm looking for here? Like, infantile understanding of history.
And the interesting thing about that article is that it really talks about how women have been divorced from their meaning and purpose as wives and mothers. And because of that, they're more anxious and more depressed because they don't.
Women in that time period were, like, wildly medicated, partly because they were depressed and anxious about being a housewife to some shitty husband and having no choices. There is no way, Abby, especially not with a fucking article from the 60s, there is no way you can convince me that women are happier not having choices. You're aware that women still can be, and okay, I'm gonna go back on this in a second, and it's something that I talk about all the time, but women still can be homemakers and housewives. They just also have the option to do other things if they want. Now, if you are going to complain that more women aren't housewives, more women aren't stay-at-home housewives, women are working too much, your problem, and you're probably, if you've watched me a long time, you're probably sick of me talking about this because I bring this up whenever we talk traditional values and housewife stuff. The problem is that modern women cannot afford not to work, right? An income today, especially right now, financial crisis time, a single income does not support a whole family. So most women have to work. Your problem should be a societal one that, means that can't happen. Regardless, women are not divorced from meaning by having more opportunities. Because a woman can be things other than mothers and wives, things that are derivative. Her whole thing here is that a woman's purpose is to be something to a man. Basically, a woman's purpose is to be a wife. That doesn't stand on its own, right? It's something dependent on a man. A mother is dependent on there being children. She basically is saying that women don't have a purpose and meaning unless they're serving somebody else. Fuck that. Fuck that. Giving women choices does not remove meaning from their lives. It gives women who don't want to live exclusively in those narrow confines the opportunity to find meaning elsewhere. Shut the fuck up, Abby. Go back to talking about your hair.
Don't have.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. That was a little bit too much.
The clear picture of what they are for. So as we've told women that motherhood and being a wife is just kind of like a choice, something that you don't have to do, that some people want to do, but it's just like something that's been forced on you by the patriarchy, and really your meaning comes from everything else.
No. Your meaning your meaning comes from what you choose to. Yeah? Remember a minute ago when you said choice, and then you suddenly changed it to make it sound bad? Some people might choose to have a very spiritual life, and they get their meaning from faith, like Abby wants to talk about. Is that okay, then, if they choose to do that, maybe instead of being a mother?
Women have actually gotten more anxious and more depressed because
I would say probably most people have gotten more anxious and more depressed. And I will highlight this, and maybe I'll look for some articles later. We've talked about this kind of thing before, and I feel like it's kind of redundant the way Abby's talking about it. A lot of the reason that things like mental health issues in general, seem to go up over time is because we are much better at identifying and diagnosing them. Like, we were talking about that kind of 50s housewife era where women were just medicated up to the nines. You know, they weren't being diagnosed with anxiety and depression. They were being called hysterical and given some pills. So it might seem that more women are anxious now, but that's because now we can diagnose anxiety much more easily. And that's not gender specific, but it tends to be, I would say that probably, if you're wondering, the reason generally that women seem to report mental health issues higher than men is that men are more likely to underreport, or men are less likely to report mental health things. And you can talk about the stigma around that, and the fact that that may be tied to Abby's classical values. It's just very irresponsible to just sort of say, women are more anxious now. More women are found to be anxious. Therefore, it's because they're allowed to join the workforce, etc. That's bullshit. That's pathetic reasoning.
They're making bad choices that are leading them away from the choices that would give them meaning.
Why are they bad choices? Are women working in fucking medicine research, you know, dedicating their lives to improving the health and well-being of people for future generations? Are they making a bad choice? Is that a bad choice that won't give them any meaning? It's so fucking stupid, and it's so fucking rich for someone who has just said that she spent 3 years now being a content creator. And she gets a lot of meaning from it. She said how passionate she feels, and I'm getting a bit overly passionate now because it's just, she's such a fucking hypocrite and she doesn't see it. It's frustrating as hell. Abby talked about, at the start of this video, how passionate she feels about sharing this content, about talking about these things. That involves doing a podcast, making a YouTube show, sending out her emails, doing her Substack stuff and her live streams. All of that would come under this modern femininity, you know, this modern womanhood, the things that women are doing now. It's a job that you're doing. You're spending that time working on something. She was just talking about her hard drive full of research. Somebody who is exactly like Abby could come along and talk about how she's making bad choices that are going to lead her to unhappiness because she's researching and producing content and reading articles instead of fucking being a mother right now. Does she not have a fucking shred of the hypocrisy there? Can she not see any of that? It's like fucking the transformed wife writing books and preaching while arguing that women shouldn't be allowed to preach, and they do this because they think, this is my assumption, Abby believes that she is following all these traditional values and classic living and whatever because she dresses modestly, and because she talks about being classic, and because she's married and has a child. Even though a lot of her life actually doesn't conform to that worldview in the way that she criticises other people for, she does enough of it that she feels that everything she does is correct living. And because it makes her happy, everything she's doing must be right. So everyone should live like her and then they'll be happy. And clearly society will be better because I found one biased article from the 60s that confirms my bias. And because I don't care to understand history or context or fucking the increased reporting in mental health, if I ignore everything that doesn't agree with my worldview, it seems like I'm right, and so everything I'm doing must be perfect. And clearly then I've got to help other women by telling them that their choices are wrong. It makes me quite cross, because it's very hypocritical, and she could so easily not be. It's bullshit. Her explanations here for why she does what she does are absolute horseshit. Total horseshit.
The truth about it is that as women here's the real thing, right? There's a very small percentage of women, 1%, 2%, that don't actually want children, that don't want to have children.
1%, 2%. Citation needed? Source, my asshole. 1%. Shut the fuck up. First of all, here's something kind of obvious that doesn't seem to come up. What about men that don't want kids? If you're talking about these heterosexual couples, man and a woman in a relationship, we're just kind of bypassing the fact, we're bypassing 50% of that relationship, right? And what they want. Not all men want kids, right? we're just putting it on the women because she has this like 50s housewife idea of a family where the wife is mostly responsible for the children, so it's up to her what she like. What if the woman wants kids but the man doesn't, and they come to some kind of compromise? Like, what? And let's say, I mean, this could be a huge discussion on its own, right? Why do people not want children so much? Huge factor is money. Again, if you're really so passionate about this, you should be passionate about the societal, the systemic problems. People can't fucking afford to have children, right? People can't afford to feed that many mouths. The environment, a lot of people feel very pessimistic about the future of the environment and they don't want their children to grow up, you know, what the future looks like. A lot of people feel very unstable politically on a kind of, you know, global political scale, and they don't want their children to grow up somewhere that might be dangerous or unfulfilling. There are so many reasons that people don't want kids. It is not just 1% of women who, I don't know, just want to live their life selfishly or whatever Abby thinks. That's just so not reality, and it completely writes men out of the equation. There are men also who don't want to have children. Let's look at this Pew Research Center survey. This is in the USA where Abby lives, so let's see. Some 44% of non-parents ages 18 to 49 say it is not too or not at all likely that they'll have children someday. 74% of adults younger than 50 who are already parents say they are unlikely to have more kids. Among parents and non-parents alike, men and women are equally likely to say they will probably not have kids. It is not an issue of feminists ruining womanhood for women, okay? It's not gender specific, it's completely related to other reasons. And people tend to have more kids when society is more stable and fruitful, when money isn't an issue. There are so many reasons that aren't people not living classically. If you actually cared, if you actually really gave a shit, either she doesn't actually care, or she genuinely is not very clever, or like completely close-minded. It's one of those three. Or maybe a combination. But if you actually cared, and you had a shred of intelligence in looking this up, you would campaign for a better world, for a better society, for a more financially stable society that supported families. Because those things are what allow people and what make people feel more comfortable and more enthusiastic about having kids. This is going to end up being really long. Okay, we might break this into a two-parter. Let's do Abby on being classic today, and we'll do the faith conversation next time, because this is I've got too much to say. She really is, like, she's making me interested in the podcast because she's hitting all my talking points that I am interested in. As passionate as Abby claims to be about living that classic life, I am equally as passionate about disproving the myths that people like Abby use to uphold their views, encouraging women to have fewer choices, encouraging women to do things they don't want to do because of some imagined future happiness, okay? And when they use false statistics, when they vaguely reference one article from the 60s, and I can't believe that's not a joke, that's actually Abby's evidence in this, I am very passionate about debunking that bullshit and reminding women that things that are wrong with the world are not their fault, their choices are not their fault, men are also a part of the equation, women aren't solely responsible for the family. That kind of classical traditional thinking is demonstrably harmful to everyone, men and women, and that Abby does it under this guise of looking out for people is just gross. It's completely gross. So she's just made up some bullshit statistics about how many women don't want to have children. 1 or 2%. According to that survey, it's more than 1 in 5 US adults, which is 20%. Could you see the cogs whirring in my mind while I was thinking about that? We're actually looking at 20% of US adults, which includes men. So 1 or 2% of women is a bullshit statistic that she completely made up. She's invented that based on her own bubble, the echo chamber she lives in, which is very typical of how Abby seems to make choices and live her life.
Children that don't want to get married, that are happier doing something else. But the narrative...
Remember, you can get married and have kids and do something else. You don't... there's no law that says you have to choose one or the other, Okay, there's a lot of difficulty in place in terms of what workforces will allow in terms of maternity and paternity leave that can make that difficult. But in general, if we're going to be sort of generic about it, you can do other things. Abby is an example of that. She's a mother and a housewife. She's also got this huge business that she pours loads of time into. She's just conveniently sort of making it sound like she doesn't do that, even though the evidence is, we're watching the evidence for it right now. She kind of makes it sound like she's not career-driven because she does it from home. A lot of these traditional values female creators will do that, and it makes me really fucking pissed off because it's deceptive on like a stupid, like you have to be really ignorant to fall for that because you can see her doing it, or just completely ignorant of the work involved even when she describes everything that she does. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Is that half of women want that? That like, it could be a 50-50 shot with you. That perhaps you will want those things, perhaps you won't.
Who cares what percentage of women want? Why is she hedging her bets on teaching women, I think it's 98% likely that you'll want to do this. So do it and why can't I as a woman figure out what makes me happy on my own and decide based on that? Why can't Abby talk about, without this judgmental, you should do X, Y, and Z, women are being taught that they shouldn't and they should do this, blah, blah, blah. Women are happier if they do X, Y, and Z, whatever. If she ignored that, and if she did, this is the perfect freeze frame for how I fucking feel right now. This is how I feel at Abby right now. She could have her videos about classic living. These are tips, lifestyle tips. This is how I live my life with children and my family. This is how I balance this and that. This is how I live my classic life. This is how I dress modestly. And then the women who do want that can watch her videos and benefit from that, or the women who aren't sure what they want can watch that and say, okay, I quite like that actually, maybe that's the sort of life I want. Why does it have to be? She thinks her way is right, and maybe like 2% of women want something else, but whatever, fuck those women. This is how you should actually want to live, and it will make you happy. Why can't women choose for themselves? That's all I want. All I want is for women to have the fucking freedom of choice to do what they want. Why does Abby get a stake in women's choices?
That is the biggest lie that feminism has told women.
Again, feminism is a scapegoat. That's not what feminism is. You can find an example of a feminist saying something stupid and extreme, just like you can find an example of anyone in any group saying something stupid and extreme. Abby would be a great example for, I guess, the classical movement. Can we just briefly talk about, that's one of the biggest lies that feminists argue after she's just made up like 4 statistics in a row. Complete lies. Maybe like 50%, that's a lie that feminists tell you. She's just lied like 3 times in a row with made up statistics. And then she's made up another lie, which is a lie that feminists tell you. Fucking hypocritical. I'm sorry. It's just, she's unbelievable. I'm gonna have to beep that out because that was a little bit mean. She's unbelievable.
That it's like maybe you'll want those things. Totally incorrect.
Who cares? Let women figure out for themselves what they want. Why do you assume that most women will want exactly what you want? You self-centered cow.
99% of women want those.
99% of women want exactly what I want, except for the business part. They're not supposed to do that, but I do because I'm allowed. Isn't my hair amazing? I'm actually a bit tilted. It started off so promising. I was like, oh my god, she's going to talk about all the things I want her to talk about. She's going to answer all the questions I want answered. And then she started being a bitch about feminism and lying about what they tell women and making up statistics, all while hypocritically criticizing this fucking scapegoat of modern womanhood. I hate it. It's disgusting. It's the most disingenuous. I'm doing this because I care, and that's why I have to lie to you and be a hypocrite and make stuff up and, like awkwardly avoid the truth that I am a businesswoman doing loads of hard work whilst being a mother and a wife. But you shouldn't do that because it won't make 98% of women happy. I guess fucking classically Abby is the 1% outlier that she spoke about.
We give women this picture of like, oh, well, you'll see. It really leads women down a path of making poor choices, making bad decisions that make those huge, important.
And yet what Abby is... I'm just... Because it's me responding to her, let's compare what I am advocating for women and what she is advocating for. I am advocating for freedom of choice for women to live their lives just like men do, seeing what suits them, seeing what they want to do, learning what makes them happy. The normal human process of growth. What Abby is advocating for is for women to live their lives as she decrees, because there's a 98% chance that then they'll be happier. If Abby had her way, and all women made the choices that she says they should make, she's going to lead a lot of women down the bad road, making wrong choices that won't make them happy because they don't want to live their lives exactly like Abby. Suddenly she's responsible. It makes me so cross. It makes me so furious that she wants to... And this is so common across this kind of ultra-conservative circle. Oh, those women out there that say they're happy, they're not really happy. I know what makes somebody happy. I'm happy, and therefore everyone should live like me and then they'll be actually happy. It's a bit like ultra-religious people, and maybe it's interesting that there's a crossover here with Abby, when ultra-religious people say, you're not truly happy unless you accept God, unless you find God and get his love or whatever. You think you're happy, but you're not really happy. I fucking loathe that. Let people enjoy what they fucking enjoy. You are balancing being a mother, being a wife, and being a businesswoman, being a content creator, okay? You just talked about all the work you put in, all your passion, your hard drive full of research. You do not get to do that while telling other women who do that they are living the wrong life, making the wrong choices. You don't get to put having children exclusively on women. You don't get to write men out of that conversation. You don't get to ignore the actual factors. Here's a hint, it's not fucking feminism. It's not modern womanhood that affect people's choices to have children. It's fucking financial. And this is why this doesn't work in this conservative circle. Ultra-conservative, not... Some people lean a bit conservative, but are, still normal and understand how the world works and can read and process information and believe it instead of thinking it's all some conspiracy by feminists or whatever. These ultra-conservatives, they won't talk about the real reasons. They have to have this scapegoat of feminism, modern society, the culture, if you're girl-defined. They have to have this scapegoat because they also fiercely support a financial structure and a societal structure that is responsible for making a lot of people choose not to have children, for meaning a lot of women can't be stay-at-home housewives. And they can't do that, so they have to imagine an enemy, and suddenly feminism is this terrifying thing that's ruining life for all these women. Oh god, it's crazy. And you're like, well, but where are they going to get the money to do these things? You just gotta work hard, marry a rich man. It's so stupid.
Important life goals of being a wife and being a mother more difficult to come by. As you are putting all of your energy into a career that may preclude you meeting the right guy, or...
How is a career going to preclude you meeting the right guy? What were you doing in your life before you met your husband? How did you meet your husband? Were you just is this literally like the 50s? You were sitting in your house while your dad made appointments with the local suitable bachelors and they would come round one by one, and it's like you wouldn't have time to meet them all if you were... I met my partner at work. We worked in the same industry. That was part of what we bonded over. The idea that working means you can't meet your spouse, then decide to have children, that's crazy. She's literally talking out her ass today. Complete bullshit.
Or may preclude you having children.
How?
You are really ending up...
I was an editor for several years and now I can't have children. All those hours in front of the computer just melted my ovaries and now I can't have children. What the fuck are you talking about?
Making choices that are pushing you away from the things that you need to do to feel good about yourself. And not only good about yourself, but have purpose in your life. Saying that careers can't be fulfilling, but they are not going to bring you ultimate fulfillment.
Says who? Chances are, no, a career is not going to bring you ultimate fulfillment. But that's regardless of gender. Right? Remember, she is also advocating for part of her lifestyle is the husband, and because we'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say because she focuses on talking to women and teaching women, God help those women, she ignores the part of the unspoken part. The unspoken part of the conversation is the husband, right? What? Is there a gene in men that makes them more fulfilled by working 9 to 5 that women don't have? Like, what are you talking about? If that's not going to bring you ultimate fulfillment, why would it bring your husband fulfillment? Or are we saying that your husband is just not going to be as happy? Like, what are you talking about?
I love my job. I love what I do. It brings me meaning and purpose, and I really, really like it. But if I had to choose between this job and being a mother or being a wife.
Abby, you don't have to. You don't have to choose. I'm going to have to stop here because I'm getting really tilted. I'm getting frustrated and I need a break. I need a break from Abby and her bullshit. I can only take so much. Okay, we will do the next part of this as a separate video. We'll do the faith part as a separate video. Abby, you don't have to choose. Part of what I think is going on here, and this is again the case with a lot of anti-feminist, ultra-conservative content creators, especially women, right? They seem to come from a place of extreme privilege. Maybe not extreme, but considerable privilege. You see the same thing echoed in Girl Defined. They are brought up in these places and times and in these families that have money to support somebody being a homemaker, somebody being a stay-at-home wife, you know? And they have it because they grow up inside these bubbles of quite well-off, almost always white, you know, whatever. They kind of forget that most people don't have the same access, the same resources that they do. If Abby had to make that choice, well, she could, because look at her life. She can afford to. She can afford to choose how much she works. She can afford this flexible way of working where she can revolve her life around her family as much as she wants to, based on her personal choices, right? Not based on what is best, what will make her happiest based on classical values. She does this based on her choices, right? A lot of people, most people, can't afford to make those choices. It's that fucking simple. I said when we talked about people's choices around having children, it's mostly driven by finances. It's almost like she's got this idea of classic living. It's a bit like when you watch like a Downton Abbey or something, when people watch these romanticized shows and books and things about the past, and it's always like, you know, a noble family, it's always the local royalty or something, and it's like most of us back then would have been shoveling the shit. We would have been the servants who never got married because we had to spend our lives, you know, maybe you could be a governess if you were very lucky, or, you know, we'd be in the stable shoveling the shit, right? We don't get the same choices as you because we didn't have the same privilege. It's a super narrow-minded, it is, I've said this a lot of times today because it's frustratingly so, it is deeply hypocritical the way she views choices and the fact that she has made all the right ones. She's so confident in that she can make up completely bullshit statistics. I still can't get over her saying 1 or 2% of women don't want to have children. She either knows that she's being a bit disingenuous about what she says, or she's too stupid to realise. And she seems intelligent. That's all I'll say regarding my assumptions about which it is. She seems quite intelligent. I genuinely think Abby is just very happy with her life and is very privileged and oblivious to most normal people's struggles, and therefore just kind of assumes that most people would be happy with the same choices as she's made. Except that most people, if they made those choices, wouldn't then be in this big fuck-off kitchen looking at their new pool. You know, oh darling, we must put a fence in for the new pool. Most people wouldn't fucking be there with the choice to work flexibly and do what you want. Like, what about the women that... We gotta stop. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sorry I got a little over the top today. I haven't done a video like this in a while. I forgot how much Abby and people like her frustrate me. They are so dishonest and just... Like, I joked about it earlier because it seemed weird and out of place, but if she genuinely just had videos of, like, this is how I do my hair and my makeup and stuff, like, I'd like that. I'd watch that. It's just that she has, like, this is how I do my hair, and when women don't do their hair, they're evil and they suck and they're ruining society. You know, that's obviously hyperbole and a stupid made-up example, but that's what it feels like. It's like you're so nearly onto something and then you ruin it by being horrible and confrontational and dishonest, and what does that get you other than clicks, right? It's just to get clicks from essentially probably the spouses of people that watch stuff like Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh, you know? While I copy over the footage from my camera for this episode, I think I will make a cup of tea. I think I'll make a nice herbal tea and try and move on from this because it's, yeah. God, this stuff frustrates me. I think I get more frustrated by women talking about stuff for women as if they are actually trying to help women when what they do is so dishonest and disingenuous and harmful. And it really should be as simple as providing the space for women to make their own choices. I think some thunder and lightning might have just started here, which is ominous and fitting. So I will leave it there for today. Do please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. It would mean the world to me. I'd love to see that little number tick up. It gives me the good feelings, because I'm a modern woman. Being on the internet and seeing number go up is part of what brings me happiness in this modern age. Problematic as it is, that is the case. Please make number get bigger. Thank you. Before we go, I would like to give a big shout out and a thank you, as always, to my giant chickens and colossal quackers over on Patreon. This would not be possible without you. Thank you so much for watching. Do stay tuned for part 2. I'm hoping the faith discussion will be a lot calmer. Yeah, look out for that. Oh, remember to subscribe to my other channel, Emma Thorne Extra, for vlog type things and other weird things. I made some peppermint creams the other day and I filmed that, so you can see that. I guess that's more classically Abby style than me living my life and vlogging and talking about stuff. So yeah, come check that out. Check out my gaming channel. I don't really have a way to tie that in with this. I just like video games, and so I make gaming videos. You can watch them. They're fun. Have yourselves a very lovely week, and I will see you really soon.